Good evening. Tonight we're going to be doing daily roulettes, a bunch of roulettes, playing only warrior. And for anyone that clicked on this stream thinking only warrior, unfortunately I do not have a light party, or a full party for that matter, waiting in the wing to be playing warrior with me. So it will be just me who will be playing warrior. However, I will only be playing warrior for these dailies. So if you want to see how warrior plays in action, maybe you're interested in the job but you don't want to put in the time to level it if you don't even know how it works at max level, then this might be a good stream. Maybe you're having a hard time getting into the job, you're not sure if there's something you're missing, you need a little bit of practical advice or just see someone else do it. Then this is also a great place to be, because these kinds of streams that I call Jaw X only streams are intended as like both, you know, a chill stream, but it's also a little bit of like a companion to my guides. So that there's a low-level warrior guide, there's a high-level warrior guide, and there's a warrior stream where you can see in practice how does it actually look when you do that. So I hope that helps you. Now, Gunsmoke says, "Oops, all Vieira." I can't be part of that stream. I'm not tall enough. And Santo says, "For the question for the chat, my favorite healers are Warrior and Sage, tied for first place." You know, a really sad thing about oh, there's Gunsmokes. What was I saying? A really sad thing about polls is that you can only have 4 things, so I can't even put Warrior in the list if we have to include all the other healers. Now, one thing, there's 2 reasons why I said what's your favorite healer for a Warrior stream. One is if I said who's your favorite tank, there's a very high chance that it's biased. Warrior mains would be more likely to come to this stream, right? The second thing is that I believe that tank mains prefer Sage. And if tanks show up for this stream, there's a significant chance that people that are, you know, if tanks show up, then presumably there's a heavy majority of Sage favoritism here. And the reason why that is because Sage has an interesting similarity with tanks in that one of the main gimmicks of the job in dungeons is that you're basically cycling Keraholi and Tabraholi to keep a 10% damage reduction up on the tank, which is really similar to defensive cooldown cycling, which tanks like to do, hopefully. So that's part of the reason. And Alif says, "Hello everyone." Hello Alif. And Alif is, I believe Alif is a healer main, right? And Kwasadi is here. Welcome, welcome. If you want to join for roulette, you're very welcome to do so, Kwasadi. And Those Brown Eyes says, "I just started playing Final Fantasy XIV. I've been watching your videos about it. They're nice. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy your adventure in Eorzea." And Makoto is here. Welcome. It's been a while. How are you doing? And Lutzagir, welcome to the stream, says, "I think this is my sign to level warrior. Is it because you're a Sage main?" But it's a funny detail. Right, so as is tradition, we will take it from the top, which means we're going to be doing stuff like expert roulette first. Now, I know that there are sprouts in the stream. There are players that just haven't gotten very far in the game yet. If something comes up, like a dungeon or a trial that is extremely story relevant, I will say something. Like, I'll be like, "Avert your eyes." So if you're scared of spoilers, I can do this. But most of the dungeons that we're going to be doing will probably not make very much sense out of context anyway. So take that as you will. And those brown eyes says, I am pretty much. I'm just a bard player with level 30, but it's pretty nice. Want to try dancer soon. And Gunsmoke says I deleted my current level axe. Oops. And Mark says it's doing okay. I'm doing very well, thank you. And Kasadi says I have done my re-clears for the night, so I could join for some. You will be welcome to do so. Let's see if I can find you. Did I forget to write your name down? I don't think I had your character name on my notes, Kosadi. For some reason, I forgot to write it down. And welcome to the stream, Nimyawi. And Margot says I don't have a sub currently, but still love watching 14 content, so I dropped by to say hi. Well, oh. Well, that makes it very easy, doesn't it? Now I know why I haven't written your name down on my notes. Sorry. I'm like, Right, so, just to reiterate, I say this on most of these streams. If your character is on a European data center, and you would like to join for the roulettes, you're welcome to do so. The one we're doing now is expert roulette, which means that you will have to have done the majority of the main quest to be able to participate in this one. And if you'd like to wait, like me to wait for you, you have to let me know that you're on your way. We are on Louisoix Chaos. Well, it's good to see you, Bargoto. If I remember correctly, you tend to have a very busy schedule at times, so that makes sense that you wouldn't always have a sub rolling. And Krasali did the callouts for the phase 2. I'm guessing P8S? Right. There wasn't anyone else that said they were coming. I know that Coco Gunsmokes is in Shadowbringer's story, so they cannot join for Expert Roulette, unfortunately. Just doing a ready check, I think that's the easiest way to do it. Those brown eyes says, do you have by any chance a Discord or anything where I can learn more about the game and find people to play with? I have my Discord. That's the best I can offer. I think most Discords dedicated to teaching stuff of Final Fantasy XIV is dedicated to like max level stuff. Those that I would be able to direct you to anyway. So the best I can suggest is that my Discord server is, you know, a great place if you need to catch any of the content that comes out of the channel, the YouTube channel. And then there's also a bunch of rooms to discuss all sorts of stuff. And there's not really a limitation to what you could ask about in the game. Right. Now we go. And both Quasadi and Cocos, they might come to like the robe, or the outfit. And the pink robe is one that I pass, for anyone that is a little bit out of the loop on that one, is if you approach me in game and let me know that you watch the channel, then I will hand you a robe as like a sort of a souvenir. It is a shame that the robe is only available for ranged jobs of some kind. Not for melee and not for tanks. And those brown eyes says they're playing on EU servers. I see. Well, if you have unlocked it and you're interested in joining, you're welcome to join for leveling roulette later. But if you're very early in your progress in the game, this might be unnecessary for you. And Coco says, you always seem to get this dungeon. This is the newest dungeon in the game, so that makes sense. And Expert Roulette has a grand total of, drumroll please, 2 dungeons. So, there's a 50% chance, at worst, that we get this one. And given that there's probably a much higher chance that people will be specifically queuing for this to progress their main quest, given that it is new, the chance is probably way over 50%. And Ghost Browner says, I've only been playing for a few hours, so I'm not sure how that works. If you're in game right now, try and press, if you're playing on a computer, press U to open the duty finder. There you should, assuming that you have unlocked a few dungeons, you should see the leveling roulette option. Or you should see a bunch of, you should see a roulette menu, and then one of them should be named leveling. This is the kind of content we're doing today, and the way that this works is that if you're doing content, each dungeon, every trial, every raid has a level range, and you will be synced or synchronized down to match it. So that means that we can do like a dungeon of your level together, without any hassle. You're welcome. It is a mechanic that isn't. I recall that when we did it on when we unlocked dungeons on Small Kai's adventure streams, the rewind replay, that we got like a little menu that told us about duties, but I don't believe they actively explained how the duty finder works. I don't feel like they did. Alif says, those crits are huge. Oh boy. Back in Shadowbringers, I remember doing 6-digit crits every now and then. I might be remembering that wrong, but I'm pretty sure that we did that it was possible to do over 100,000 damage in a single hit. But Endwalker reduced the numbers a bit. For the better. Absolutely for the better. When the numbers get really big, they also become meaningless. Uh-oh. Oh dear. Fun fact, if you use Nascent Flash and an attack that is guaranteed to crit, then the heal is also guaranteed to crit. But it has to be the action itself that is guaranteed to crit. It doesn't work if it only crits because Inner Release says so. So if you use Inner Chaos or Primal Rend, then the heal from Nascent Flash will crit. Guaranteed. If you use Fell Cleave, it will not. It will have a chance to, of course, but it's an extremely specific niche detail about the Nascent Flash. I do mention it in my high level guide, I believe. But some rare occasion it might be helpful. Coco says, by the way, it could be all Viera. You just need a... You have... I don't understand what you're saying there, Coco. What do you mean? It could be all Viera, you just need a stepping stool. Matthew says White Mage and Ninja can do 100k direct crits with item level 630. Are you sure? Wait, let me think. Primal Rend can do... Well, I do like 40k or near 40k with Primal Rend. Afflatus Misery has nearly double the potency of Primal Rend, and if you are in a raid that is coordinated, you can stack a lot of buffs, which could easily add up to like an extra 20%. Or even 30%, and if you have 30% extra and double the potency, then yeah, you could do 100k. Yeah, the reason why I'm looking at my Primal Rends as a reasonable comparison is because I have all but one item level 630 gear piece, and my weapon is the relic at 630, so I feel like it's a reasonable comparison. I could have a little bit more crit if my gear optimization was a bit better. Which is also why I'm willing to just round Afflatus Misery up to be like a perfect double of Primal Rend, even though I believe it's slightly less. Goku says, put on Bonnie Ass and get a booster seat. Then everyone can be a Viera, is what you're saying. Indigo Winter says, Astrologian is fun, even though they do the lowest of damage. Buffs for everyone. Well, that is the cost of making everyone else do more damage, is that you yourself will have to do less. This boss is really weird as a tank when you want to like position the boss and it just teleports to the middle every time. So you don't have to do anything. I do agree, Astrologian is really fun, especially if you like playing support jobs. And when I say support jobs, I mean it in the context of supporting damage. You know, like a bard or a dancer. I feel like if you wanted to play a healer, like specifically a healer, then Astrologian takes a lot of the focus away from that specific aspect. Oh, whoops. Hopefully the Kasadi's got my back. Thank you. But that is a good point. I remember in Shadowbringers that it was like you could get 100k critical direct hits with like Scourge for Red Mage. But then we had the squish. But it's a good point, Matthew, that we've actually already gotten back to those numbers. We've also already gotten back to tanks having significantly above 100,000 health again. Gogo says, Bard should do as much damage as Samurai and do as much support as Dancer. Well, I don't think you would want that. Because if they did that, then everyone would play Bard. Well, everyone that specifically cared about maximizing damage. Indigo Winter says, can someone explain to me the yellow lines that goes out between mobs? Is the main one the rest of the lines point to the main one to aggro? So the lines between mobs like that basically mean if you hit this mob, then these other mobs will also engage in combat. It's particularly important in open world, like if you walk up to a level 1, 2 or 3 mob as a level 1, you will not see those yellow lines, they will not appear. If you approach the mobs as a level 20, for example, you will see when you click the mob that, or mouse over it, I can't remember if it's mouse over or actually clicking it, you will see the beam point out to the mobs that it will bring with it. It doesn't really matter when you're that high level, because the enemies will quite easily die nonetheless, but that's what it means, Indigo Winter. It just means these mobs are joining the fight as well. Those brown eyes says, I think Bard is pretty fun to play. That's good. Some players said when they saw my Bard guide on it that the job seems a lot more complex than they had anticipated, or that it is even overwhelming when you get to high levels. Indigo Winter says, thanks for explaining. I've been seeing them, but I didn't know what it really meant. I don't think the game ever explains it. I think they just start appearing. There might be one of those, you know, random tooltips that pop up over your screen while you're busy with something else, so you just quickly close it. But I don't think that it goes into more detail than that. I love this mechanic. I think it's super interesting. And it is like, You know, those kinds of mechanics where they don't really tell you the entire telegraph, where that is usually only happening in really difficult content, but still is presented in a way where it is acceptable to be in like a regular dungeon. Kogo says, is this Greg's voice actor? I don't know. I do not know. I just realized that the Dragoon was handing me their damage buff. Right. The stack marker will appear for the healer, so that's Basari. Hello, Twine Dunters. How are you doing? Indigo Winter says, thanks for using Nascent Flash appropriately. I see it go off for warriors, but they never put it on someone. Well, the thing is that you have to choose between Nascent Flash to use it on yourself and someone else, or use Bloodwetting to use it on just yourself. Now, you might be thinking now, well, that's really selfish to use Bloodwetting then. The thing is that if you use Bloodwetting on yourself, then it puts a shield on you. And a damage reduction effect on you. And then also the healing on you, of course. If you use Nascent Flash on someone else, then they get the shield and the damage reduction and healing. You only get the healing. So if you actually need the shield yourself, or the damage reduction, which you probably will, then using Nascent Flash on someone else while it doubles the healing you can do with the action, it puts the defensive components that the tank needs on someone else. So there is an argument for why you wouldn't want to always use Nascent Flash. But I could absolutely imagine that there are a lot of tanks that will just go, nah, I only use Nascent Flash because I can't be bothered to target anyone else. Hey Woolly Ram, it's been a while. How are you doing? Leaf noticed the dragon side just as I did. There's a chance that they used it on me by accident. There's a chance that they used it on me for no particular reason. There's also a chance that they used it on me because maybe they know me. Maybe they used it on me because they have a DPS meter. Who knows? If they have a DPS meter, they would be able to know if I was literally doing more damage than the machinist. And if that's the case, then they're basically just saying, well, I'm maximizing damage. We don't know. We'll never know. Ooh. More cherry pink outfits. Nice. Right. So next up, we're going into level 90 dungeons. And I'll just repeat. If you are on a European data center and you would like to join for these roulettes, you're very welcome to do so. This is on Nuiswa Chaos. So, yeah, guys, a cherry pink squad. I think it would be really, really funny to be able to go into like an alliance raid and just have your whole party be all wearing pink. That would be funny. Or even like a frontline. You have your light party is the pink squad. That one would also be pretty good. Indigo says, but on Wednesday we wear pink. Well, I wear pink every day. Right. Level 90 dungeon. Let me just check in on the poll. Well, what I see is that as the poll gets more votes, it like evens out more, which I think is a good thing. But I do find that it is very interesting that Sage is still in majority. That also might be that it's evening out for other reasons. As I said at the start of the stream, I have a suspicion that tank mains prefer Sages for their healer job. I think you can join for the rest of the roulettes, Coco. Oh, this one is fine. This one is... Well, if you pay attention to the text on screen, then it might be like minor, very minor spoilers for the Stormblood raid series, but not really, actually. The Sigmascape. And if you have been in the level 70 raid series of Stormblood, then this song may sound familiar. Which is of course also a dead giveaway of the relation, because of how Final Fantasy XIV uses music. And if you like to watch memes on Final Fantasy XIV stuff, then this is also the song that some nicknamed, I believe it's Chicken Tenders? From a Misheard Lyrics meme. Exactly, Kazadi. Final Fantasy uses an immense amount of leitmotifs. I believe one of the wildest examples of that is... A Long Fall, the meme dance, which contains a lot of references. Alif says, are those crits a warrior specialty? Inner release makes it so that your next 3 fell cleaves or decimates are free and guaranteed critical direct hits. Which means that they do somewhere in the ballpark of 75 to like 90% more damage, depending on your critical hit stat and direct hit stat. Maybe even 200% damage. Infuriate turns Decimate and Fellcleave into Chaotic Cyclone and Inner Chaos, which both also are guaranteed to be critical direct hits. And Primal Rend, their final ability or final weapon skill, also just innately has a guaranteed critical direct hit. So yeah, Warrior is... its specialty is guaranteed critical direct hits. This is also part of the reason why that Warrior of all tanks has the most consistent DPS. Because they don't really rely very much on luck to do most of the damage. At least compared to other tanks. Because their burst is guaranteed to get all the luck. But that is an interesting way to put it, that it is their specialty. Because I suppose that's their specialty in an offensive category, where their specialty in a defensive category is self-healing. And if you're now wondering why I said that the critical direct hits vary in damage, that's because, and now, the main thing is that direct hit, the stat, increases your chance to get a direct hit, and the critical hit stat increases your chance to critical hit, and I'm sure everyone had assumed as much, whether they had read the tooltip or not. But in Final Fantasy XIV, the critical hit stat actually also increases your critical hit damage. So if you have more of it, then not only do you get more critical hits, but they're worth more as well. This is also the reason why pretty much all jobs stack critical hit to an absurd degree, because it is the only stat that specifically gets better the more you have of it. All other stats at best stay equal or get slightly worse if you have a lot of it in some capacity. And then there's the detail that they added in like a few patches ago, where when you use an action that guarantees a critical hit or a direct hit, then some amount of the rate that you gained from your stats will instead be applied as extra damage. So that means that if you hypothetically were a dancer and you decided to put Devilment on the tank for some reason, and your tank was a warrior, then that would increase the damage of Primal Rend immensely. Probably. I don't think I've ever seen a dancer put the closed position on a tank. Not recently anyway. Yeah, the reason for this is that with the amount of guaranteed critical direct hits in the game, it started to kind of devalue the stats themselves, especially direct hit. And buffs that increased them also became a little bit less valuable. So to offset this, they made it so that if an action that guarantees it is used, they still benefit from it by just increasing the guaranteed damage. Oh, ninjas over there. Oh, I just realized the summoner missed out on Shake It Off, because they were standing all the way over there. Those Brown Eyes asks, how often do you live stream? I live stream on Tuesdays. We do typically some sort of roulette stream like this, or maybe something else. In most cases, it's not like story stuff, although sometimes if there's a new patch, it might be. On Saturdays, I stream this series that I've named Rewind Replay, where I'm replaying through the main quest on an alt. Which of course would be, if you are following the story, it would be massive spoilers if you haven't done it yourself yet. And those streams tend to start earlier and go for longer. And if there's something that gets in the way, then sometimes the stream will be moved to a different day. You will see on the Discord And also on the YouTube community page that I put up a weekly schedule where you can see when there's streams, when there's videos coming out and things like that for the current week or the following week. And typically I stream twice a week. Oh right, nice. Mage limit break on the final pack. That is really good, but you don't always see that. Some players are scared of doing it, because some other players sometimes get mad about it for unknown reasons. They wanted the melee limit break or something for the boss. This isn't limit break wasting. I think in a dungeon context, the most effective way to make use of the limit break is mage limit break. Or ranged physical, but we did discover, or I discovered somewhat recently actually, that the mage limit break does slightly more damage than the ranged physical limit break. At least that has been documented. Fun fact about this boss, the adds that self-destruct don't do enough damage to be threatening. The threatening part is that they give you a vulnerability stack. So if you're even slightly concerned about being able to do the mechanics right, then you may want to deal with the adds appropriately. Otherwise, you can genuinely completely ignore them. You don't have to deal with them. Now the problem is that if even a single person wastes time attacking them, then you don't gain anything from ignoring them. So we'll fight them, so we don't get too many vuln stacks for nothing. But this has led to like a strategy for this boss where you just completely ignore the adds. Oh dear. Brown Eyes says, that's great. Mostly I have uni stuff to do, but I have some few days off so I can play the game more and also watch you. That's nice. If you need some background noise while you're working on uni stuff and I'm not streaming, you'll be happy to know that I have whole playlists of stream VODs that you can put on if you like. I have heard that they're very popular for keeping in the background when you're working. No, I didn't even get to use my primal rend. He says, I might have forgotten how this boss works. Don't worry about it. We survived. The thing is, with that gimmick where you can just ignore the ads, it saves you like 5 seconds or 10 seconds. In the grand scheme of things. it's so unnecessary optimization. But it's interesting that you can, and some groups like it. Like, some groups think it's funny to do it like that. So I think it's interesting to share, because the more people that know it, the more common the strategy becomes. Now, next we will be doing 50, 60, 70, 80 dungeons. So, if, once again, if you are in the European data center, you have unlocked this roulette and you would like to join, then you just have to make your way to Louisoix Chaos and you can join us. Or you can continue to watch. That is, of course, also allowed. You done, Kosadi? Alif says, took me a week to finish one VOD, but they definitely help. Imagine putting on like a 6 or 7 hour long stream VOD. Those take a long time. I remember sometimes when I put on like a 6 hour stream in the background, I often have to like take out, just to be sure, because sometimes YouTube fails to remember how far I got. I have to write down how far I got in it, so that I can continue later. Basadi says, I was planning to play something with my friend, so I'll pop off for now. Oh, okay. Well, thank you for joining anyway. It's way more fun when we have friends from the stream joining, so I really appreciate it. Are you ready to go, Coco? You'll be lurking in the stream, though. You're welcome to do so. So, I don't know if everyone else has been noticing it. This also happened right at the start when we were about to do Expert Roulette. There was like 2 or 3 roulettes at once that had DPS Adventurer in Need. If you've been noticing this happening recently and wondering why this is happening, like, why is it that suddenly DPS in Need is happening a lot more regularly? Then, simply put, and I have mentioned this previously, I believe, the Mandeville relic weapons requiring an obscene amount of astronomy tombstones to upgrade all of them means that there are a lot of players that collect a lot of them or all of them that will simply spam roulettes every single day to get them all as quickly as possible. And obviously you would queue as tank or healer for that, never DPS, which ends up with the result that you queue as a tank and a DPS and you're tank number 3 in the queue, even though it's Adventure in Need tank. Because everyone's doing all of the roulettes. This also happened when the Mandeville relic weapons were released originally. This was still the case around when I released my leveling guide some months back, which there's a high chance most of you have seen. There I got a picture of some roulettes being DPS in need. Oh, Bale's Wall. This is a Stormblood spoiler. However, if you have not done A Realm Reborn, this is meaningless to you. If you can't remember A Realm Reborn, then this is also meaningless. Just as a little soft warning. Well, it is more like a Heaven's Ward spoiler, but it is a spoiler for the start of Stormblood. Oh boy. We don't have inner release. I need my inner release. Can we pull the thing? Oh boy, I think this is too much. OP warrior tankness, save me. There are 2 ranged mobs, but I also want to stay in the healing circle. That worked. I pulled 2 packs, saw the third one and went, I think we can take that one. And then I saw more mobs out in the distance and went, well, it's just 1 mob. And then there was another pack. I think this is everything, right? Featherfoot. Fascinating. That is an action that was removed in Stormblood. Oh yeah, and Coco says DPS in need is a lie. Adventurer in need is a lie, because what happens is that whichever role is the least represented in the queue at the moment where it makes the calculation changes the adventurer need to that. So let's say there are very few tanks in the queue for a roulette. Then it will switch to tank in need, of course. But it only switches every so often. So because it takes a while to switch, but players are extremely quickly to just, you know, switch to the role that is in need. They're here to help. It is actually only in need for like, I don't know, 30 seconds? Maybe less? So yeah, adventurer need is a lie. It's all fake. An interesting detail about Warrior is that it's a lot harder to do a lot of damage with Warrior when you're not very high level, because inner release changes so much about the way the job works. Ooh, a treasure coffer. Ooh, ads. A transport belt of ads. That's the saddest battle voice. Oh. I think I've mentioned this on a stream before. I use different targeting settings for PvP. Woolly Ram says, man, leveling Black Mage is just dropping Enochian like a hot potato. Aww. Yeah, my best advice on that is if the timer is going too close so you can't save it, the best you can do when you're not very high level yet is just use transpose. Just switch out of the current element you're in and then save it. It's not super important when you're lower level, but when you unlock Foul, it's quite important that you keep the timer rolling. When you get to higher level, there's also a lot more creative ways that you can deal with it. The reason why it's not super important when you're low level is because it's a damage boost. But the damage boost comes back as soon as you cast an ice or a fire spell. So it's not that bad. This is an incredibly long section. It always surprises me. I wonder if the boss is coming up soon. Now? Maybe? Finally! A transport build that points the other way. And it's boss time. Oh yeah! Fun fact. You may or may not know this, depending on how much you pay attention to this stuff. But this is a regular mob in a level 70 dungeon. That's a case of the normal, the boss mob becoming a boss, the boss mob becoming a regular mob, kind of growth, character growth. That is the dice mechanic. You have to be doing nothing when the timer reaches 0. The best way you can avoid taking damage from that is to press escape, not be targeting anything, and just remove your hands from the keyboard. That's a lot of mobs. Woolly Ram says, trying to squeeze a 4th Fire 4 is always a mistake. Yeah, you need either ley lines or an obscene amount of spell speed to do that reliably. You probably don't have the spell speed to do that trick when you're leveling. Unless you happen to find a ridiculous, a ridiculously convenient gear set in just random drops. And Leaf says, that's very cool. The mobs all ran to you immediately. I feel like it was luck. I don't think I managed to hit everything. But that reminds me of a trick I did back in... oh, what's the dungeon called? Does anyone remember the one with the Wukong inspired boss, the monkey on a cloud, with the extending bow staff? There's an ad part of that boss fight where he spawns ads in a circle, like in the outer ring of the arena. Back when I mained Paladin in Stormblood, I would pull all of the enemies there by casting Clemency on myself, because it generates a massive amount of enmity, especially if you have your tank stance on. So we just cast Clemency on myself and then wait for them to approach me in the center. I don't know if Equilibrium would work like that. I don't really use it like that very much, because in the past expansion, but especially Endwalker, they have reduced the amount of enmity that the healing produces just in general, so I'm not entirely sure how effective it would be. This is awkward. The first pack is dying on the way to the third pack. Hmm. It's... oh, wait, there's someone watching cutscene. It's sloppy time. Sloppy! It's just as well that we have cooldowns prepped properly. And Woolly Ram says, grumblings aside, I think you can see why some people fall in love with Black Mage. I feel like the common sentiment is that they love the challenge that it provides. They like that it is punishing like that. It puts a lot of expectations on them to play well. And it also puts a huge amount of opportunity to improve. How do you like these? Uh-oh.
Sloppy.
Sloppy.
I'll tear you limb from limb.
Don't do that. I need those.
Sloppy.
Sloppy.
For Alamigo! I have you now. Yeah.
It's not particularly important which blade we deal with. We just have to deal with the same one. Whoa. Ah. I didn't see that there was a glare mechanic coming right for me. That's true, Woolly Ram. I think the thing that a lot of players get intimidated by with the job is that sometimes you know exactly what you did wrong, but you feel like there was nothing you could do about it. Like, if Enochian drops because you had to run from a mechanic for a really long time, but you had to run from the mechanic for a really long time because you weren't well acquainted with the particular boss fight you were doing. So there was nothing you could have done differently besides just knowing that you had to do it differently in advance. So it's the kind of job where it's scary to go into content you don't know. And I know a lot of players are scared of, you know, tanking dungeons they don't know. There are a lot of players that are scared of tanking, just period. And there's also players that are scared of healing, period. But there's also healers that are scared of healing dungeons they haven't healed before. So Black Mage falls kind of into that department because of how demanding it is on your knowledge. I feel, at least. Right, next we're doing leveling roulette. Once again, if you are in a European data center, you are welcome to join. If you're on your way, just let me know in the stream chat so I know to not start immediately. Otherwise, I'll probably start it in like 30 seconds. Yeah, Black Mage is one of these... It is surprisingly simple. And the difficult part is doing it right. The part that you say, Woolly Ram, where you know exactly what you did wrong, is a really good point. And Polar says, being White Mage is really fun, until I get into a dungeon or something in the main quest and have to keep people alive while not knowing mechanics. Well, I think the good part about that is that you can often get away with healing yourself, although if you're scared of dying to a mechanic that you don't know, and there's no one else in the party that can raise you, I can immediately see why you would be afraid of healing it. It's the worst doing a dungeon where the healer's having trouble and they die, and both of the DPS are not able to raise. So you just kind of have to deal. Right. Leveling roulette it is. Look at this, the queue was faster. Oh, it just switched to tank. Never mind. Coco, I think you might be cursed. Alif says, everybody's favorite. It is my favorite. However, I don't have any self-healing. You can see here the ranged mobs are perfectly placed so that we can cleave them from a safe position because of using line of sight. There's a boulder there that you can use for that. Now, I got a little bit distracted from that because I suddenly realized I was about to die. Here's another fun fact, and this is something I learned from World of Warcraft. Sometimes you have to line of sight your party members to make sure they don't do something stupid for themselves. We could have avoided this entire issue with that extra toad if I had pulled the ads so far in that both a bard and a red mage would be forced to walk in. And the healer explicitly requests that people use the fruits on 2 stacks. That is reasonable. I think you can stun this boss, but I would rather play it safe. As long as I can reliably dodge out of it, I don't want to use it, but I can use my stun if someone else is in danger. Uh-oh. Ow. But I like Aurum Vale because it tests you on a lot of like basic strategies that most dungeons in the game doesn't. And then it also happens to be in a dungeon where you're low enough level that you still don't have an answer to everything yet. Incidentally, warrior is the only tank that has an invuln by level 49. So that is probably the real reason why I get confused about who has and who doesn't have an invuln at this point in the game. And of course, coin counter, one of the earliest bosses in the game that used to not have any telegraphs on their attacks. So you just had to guess. Woody Ram says, Aurum Vale hate is more meme than fact. Bardam's Medal, on the other hand. Do people hate Bardam's Medal? I thought it was just like the first big pull in the dungeon that was a little brutal. Do people really hate the dungeon for just that? The scary thing about Bardam's Medal is that the first pull is like you pull a pack, and then there's a single mob that is weirdly powerful. It's like 2 mobs, and then there's a patrolling guy that is really powerful. And either you pull that, all of that, or you just pull the few mobs at the very start. Now, the thing is, if you pull all of that, then the next pull is a single pack. So that's why the first pull in Bardam's Medal becomes 4 packs or so. And there's a really long run from the first 3 packs to the 4th. But I don't know what else would be hated about that dungeon. I would be a lot more apprehensive towards doing this mega pull if it wasn't for the fact that I have Beast Gauge. And the healer has previously shown themselves to be very capable. Like, if we would fail to do the first big pull in the dungeon, then I probably might not want to pull this much. Speaking of pulling a lot, Wooly Ram says the IQ test boss. Oh, the second boss is that bad? I think it's nice. A boss where you only have to do the boss mechanics. I know it's a little boring if you're used to doing more complex boss mechanics while also doing your rotation, but I think it's an interesting concept, an interesting idea to have a boss fight where you just have to get the mechanics right, nothing else. But I can see that if you already know the fight from start to finish by heart, it gets really boring. Like, nothing's ever going to change about it. Ow. No, I dodged it. Dodge the tank buster. Big brain. Why use defensive cooldowns for the tank buster when you can just not get hit? And the leaf says, that is fun. Maybe for a first timer it would be a challenge and something odd. Suddenly got that type of boss. Yeah, exactly. It's like, it's a lot, because it is only boss mechanics. I would say that the boss mechanics on that boss are more complex and they're a lot more brutal than most boss mechanics in dungeons by that point. Because if you make one mistake, well, I do believe you can make 2 mistakes in that dungeon, or in that fight, per phase. Which is already a lot of assistance, given that there's like 5 or 6 things that can hit you per phase. Maybe a bit more, depending on the mechanic. And next up, trials. I feel like we're getting a lot faster through these roulettes this week than previously. Thank God we had competent people in that. It would be fine. Look, if we didn't have a strong healer, the only thing that would change is really that I would pull the same things in more steps. It was fine. I just realized that we had a really good healer after the first pull where I almost died. My home gang was used for nothing because they managed to heal me back up in time. Oh look, expert DPS in need. Are you ready for trial roulette, Coco? But I think it went fine. Coco says, last time I had a really bad healer and a tank who just didn't stop pulling and died over and over again. Yeah. That's the thing. I talked about this a little bit on Discord. About like pulling etiquette as a tank. And a healer for that matter. And my stance on the matter is, if I'm the tank, I will pull the packs that I always do. And if we wipe because I pull too much, I will simply apologize and pull less. Often I experience that healers feel confident that they can do it because I confidently went ahead and tried. So they know that I believe we can do it. And I've seen multiple times they just say, oh, I wasn't ready for it. And then we try again. Yeah, so if we had wiped on that first mega pull in Aurum Vale, I would have just said sorry. And suggested pulling less, and then maybe the healer would say, no, run that back, we can do this. Or they would say, yes, please, pull a little less. And I would just do whatever they asked, and we'd go from there. It's that easy. No need to ask. Oh. That's the saddest berserk. Come on down. Real fast. I managed to get it in. And Woolly Ram says, well, some Final Fantasy XIV content creators are complaining about the patch. It's really nice as a DPS to have sub 5-minute queue times. True! And also, these kinds of like minor patches between major patches always have sort of not very much content. It's just that people forget that. I wasn't surprised when there wasn't even new MSQ stuff in the patch notes. I was just confused by how late we got even the preliminary patch notes, because normally those come out a little earlier. But I really don't mind. And Woolly Ram says, some are dissatisfied with the relic not having a grindy phase. Yeah, that's true. They're angry that it's just tombstone farming again. I understand that. It's just... I feel like the preliminary requirement to even get started on the relic weapon can be considered a grind in its own right. A lot of players had to rush through the entirety of the Mandeville storyline just to access it. So I feel like that is a a reasonable... Yeah, you don't want to be in the front of the boss, Coco. Oh boy. But I do understand that some had hoped for more. But I think it's nice. I also think that the effect it has on the on queues by making roulette relevant for even longer is good. Whoopsie. Well, you survived. And I think we'll do normal raids next. Coco, do you have level 60 raids? If you don't, we can just do Alliance raid as well. You do? Okay. Yeah, I think that there being a huge incentive to farm astronomy tombstones is a good thing. I think it's a good thing. As Woolly Ram puts it, it's really nice as a DPS to have sub 5-minute queue times. It's like a way to add stuff for people to do. It's just that players are saying we wanted more varied content, is what some players say in my experience. And others say we wanted a relic grind. And some players are just mad that they wanted it to be something else. It's hard to say what is best. But I don't feel that it is necessary to have a big relic grind. If I remember correctly, more mobs won't spawn until we kill these 3. You must kill the mobs. Alif says, the recent relic step is only the second step, right? Correct. There should be at least 4 steps. There's some one cutscene. Oh, never mind. Oh boy. I remember one of these fights is really scary as a tank, and I don't remember what you're supposed to do about it. I have a feeling that I'll just die very suddenly. But yeah, there should be 4 parts of the relic. At the very least 4 parts. So there's still time for it to get really grindy. But I suppose also part of the argument is that a lot of players, if you don't like or care about Palace of the Dead deep dungeon type content, then this patch contained basically, I think I'm going to die now, because I don't remember what you're supposed to do about this. Never mind. Now I'm going to die, probably. Somehow not? Woody Ram says, perhaps Yoshida will have more time to oversee grindy content when Final Fantasy 16 is out. Okay, I think I died through Holmgang there? I'm holding back. I'm waiting until I think the other tank actually needs a tank switch before I do anything. He seems to be doing fine. When the boss fights are so slow that the weakness debuff carries over from fight to fight. Oh. Is this going to be okay? Will he need a tank switch? Let's see how much damage it does. I wasn't sure if he was gonna need it. I saw that the tank buster did like over half of his health in a single hit. Gilano says, freeze the tornado and hide behind. Oh. Well, that's smart. Thank you. I'm guessing it was for this. That was incredible timing with that tip, Gilano. If you had said it like 2 seconds later, or maybe 5 seconds later, it would have been too late. And if you said it earlier, then I would have been like, what do you mean? Wow. Who needs, like, third-party tools for boss mechanics? Just have live chat. That's incredible. Coco says, be right back. Alright. Well, we can wait a moment. We've just been speeding through this tonight, and that's good. The problem for me is that the second boss, the one I died on, I'm never sure what you're supposed to do. This might be a great time to check. I think it said that you can tank the one that I took. You can solo tank it, you just need to use a cooldown. But if you get 3 of the magic vulnerability stacks, you need to tank switch. Is the recommended strategy. I think I had 2 stacks? I think I had 2. But I also had no cooldowns left. So that was probably it. I used Home Gang because I didn't have anything else. Woolly Ram says, imagine doing Savage Blind and chat as your raid leader. Now that would be great. Then I hope that the delay on your stream is very short. Otherwise it's going to be brutal. Are you ready to continue, Coco? Into Alliance raid. I think we might just manage to do every single thing on my list tonight. Usually we have to... we get most of it, and then I just choose to not do the last things. Alif says, how do item level sync work, by the way? You have level 90 gear, but then what happens to your gear stats when you go get synced down? So, what happens is that your gear has all of the stats that they say they have, but you know how when you open like melding like this? These upper limits for how much stats can be on the item is reduced as the item is scaled down. So if your gear happens to have all stats on it and in a significant capacity like certain relic weapons can have, then you might just fill out all of them, just max out every single one, no problem. But, and here's the key thing that makes it a little awkward. When your gear is synchronized, materia no longer functions. Like, materia stops doing anything for you. But if you've ever seen best in slot lists for ultimates, like old ultimates where your gear gets scaled down, you'll often find that that you'll use a relic weapon from a later expansion, like the Shadowbringers ones, for example. I'm going to die. And then you will also see that the stat lines on said weapons are really weird. Like, really weird. Like, you will not have that much crit on it necessarily, but that's because someone has sat down and figured out exactly how much critical hit can actually be on a weapon when they get scaled down to the ultimate. And just say, well, you just need exactly that much crit on the weapon. And then they go down to the next stat and the next stat and just distribute the stat line precisely so that you maximize everything. So I hope that makes sense, Elif. The gear syncing mechanic is certainly not very well explained. And it doesn't really help you that it just shows the numbers on your gear in a different color. An hourglass! If you've done this dungeon a bunch of times, you may have realized that it feels like when you deal with those hourglasses, it doesn't really change anything. It feels like it doesn't really do anything. The reason for that is that what it does when you break the hourglasses is that it stops those, that gray part, that gray quarter of the arena stops and then just stays like that for a few seconds before it detonates. If you don't break the hourglasses on time, then the gray quarter will just suddenly, with no warning, detonate immediately and kill everyone that is standing on it. So it feels like it doesn't do anything, but in reality it makes the mechanic resolve with time to react. Whereas if you don't deal with the mechanic properly, it will just explode suddenly and immediately. Oh, I think the tank got Doom. I was wondering why they suddenly started moving the boss around like that. Nelly says, do you do more damage and have more survivability if you, in lower level instances, if you have that level 90 gear, or it doesn't matter? So when your gear gets scaled down, all the stats will be maxed out for a gear piece that is that would be the highest allowed item level in that dungeon. So for example, if I joined a dungeon that had an item level sync of 270, for instance, you know, augmented. Nope. See you later, Woolly Ram. Thank you for checking in. Good night. If, for instance, the item level sync was 270, so like augmented Shire gear, then the defense and strength and vitality on my gear would be equal to augmented Shire gear. The key difference is that whatever 2 stats that my armor piece might have on it, like critical hit and determination, would probably be completely maxed out, because the stat budget of an item level 270 gear piece is much less than what is on a 630 gear piece. So that is to say, if you enter a dungeon where you have where you're wearing level 90 gear, you will have slightly more, like very, very slightly more stats than someone that is wearing genuine level, like item level 270 gear, for example. It is going to be a minor detail. We can take a look at it after this dungeon. The reason why we can't do it now is because after the dungeon, I would be able to, I don't know, straight up go over and pick up a piece of Shire equipment I might have lying around somewhere, and then we can look exactly at the numbers for my example. I might forget, so Alif, I'm going to have to rely on you to try and remind me after the dungeon. We help each other try and remember, then we'll take this experiment after this alliance raid. Just remember, normally people pull this boss all the way up to the corner. It gives the rest of the raid more space to deal with mechanics. And I don't need all that space anyway. But yeah, in case I forget to make the experiment, Alif, what matters is that if you bring level 90 equipment into like a level 60 dungeon, you will be slightly, ever so slightly stronger than an actual level 60 with best in slot equipment for the level range. It's not going to be a huge difference. Is there a particular reason you're asking? Or is it just curious? Leaf says, it's just people seem to care about gearing up for content. I just want to make sure I understand what we're supposed to do. Oh, well, if it's just a regular dungeon, then generally you don't have to overgear a dungeon to beat it. But I think it depends on context. Like, which dungeon is it? What content is it? For ultimates, it's expected that you try to maximize your gear as much as possible for the specific level range. Ow. Oh boy, I got loot. Yeah, if you're getting synced down, you're generally geared for the content. The only exception is ultimates, and the only reason why people care excessively about being optimally geared to sync down for ultimate content is because you can't run it unsynced. I think players that care about running old content synced, where you don't have to run it synced, they would care more about doing stuff like minimum item level runs and things like that. And there, it's a completely different story. You would actively go out of your way to find gear of a strictly super specific item level. And then the best gear in that item level range. So it's complicated. Leaf says, what about leveling? Can I level up, for example, my tanks using the tombstone gear at level 60 to go up to level 70 before changing? You could do that. That is viable, but by level 65 you will start to feel like your gear is sort of falling behind. And that makes sense because I believe level 64 gear, like crafted gear, is equal, if not slightly stronger than I don't intend to be the tank for this boss, but no other tank is walking forward. Guess I'm the boss tank now in Alliance B. I don't know why the boss keeps turning like that. I hope there isn't a tank standing facing that is trying to face the boss towards the entire raid. Nimiari says, why did it correct a tombstone? It does that too on my manuscript documents. It's really awkward. Nimiari says, I feel like tombstone gear is good to start. And then you get better gear in dungeons and from quests. Could be wrong though. That is correct. Also, we are going to wipe if we only have like 2 people in the belly, and I think that is what we have. To enter the belly, you need to become small from the acid over there, and then step in the purple goop. Hey Rado, how are you doing? I'm doing well. We might be wiping here though. For multiple reasons. I'm not doing too hard on damage, or taking damage, and we're taking like 40 years to deal with the belly, but I think we just got it down. But yeah, you can absolutely just use tombstone gear from level 60 to 70 and then change at level 70. That is good enough. A keyword here is good enough. Some players in level 65 or above dungeons will get mad at you for some reason. And I say for some reason because there's no reason to get mad about that. I have seen... So, the reason why I'm saying that, Alif, is because I think what you're running into is that there are some players that worry too much about gear. You need to keep in mind that some players say they know what is necessary to do a dungeon, but they don't. And in particular, speaking of Bardam's Medal that Woolly Ram brought up earlier, because it is a little brutal, on the tank and the healer, it is not unusual for players to zone into Bardam's Medal, examine the tank, and then be mad that the tank is only wearing Tombstone gear, which is, get this, like 10 item levels lower than the gear from Bardam's Medal, if it isn't 6. It is extremely small, and the thing is that the only gear you would be able to get from dungeons that would be actually better than Tombstone gear, the first gear you would be able to get, is from Bardam's Medal. So these kinds of players are mad that their tank doesn't already have the gear from the dungeon they're doing. It's like if you've played World of Warcraft, putting the item level requirement to do a raid equal to the item level that drops from the raid, which is a common thing. But people will still get people will still care about this and talk about this. So basically, the short answer, Alif, is if you're doing a dungeon in the level range 60 to 70 and you're wearing augmented Shire gear that is item level 270, then you're fine. If you're doing like leveling dungeons and such. So level 61, 63, 60, 65, 67, and even 69. Nice. Dungeons. Then you're geared if you're wearing augmented Shire gear. You might, when you get to like the level 69 dungeon, it starts to get a little rough. But you can still manage. When you get to level 70 though, you just replace your gear with, you know, the next set of Tombstone gear. And you're fine again. But you don't need a lot of gear from the dungeons as you level. You don't need that. I hope that answers it. And of course, as I said, there are some players that care so much about being over-prepared for dungeons that they will get mad. Basically, they will get annoyed if their tank isn't over-geared for the dungeon. And that is not required. That is not required. Although it helps, of course. She's really sucking in those storms for a long time. You inhaling there enough? Take a deep breath, Cloud of Darkness. This is going to be painful. Oh. Oh. That's the saddest berserk. We killed our Cloud so fast that the walls just barely managed to come up in time. All the limit breaks. Nice. Oh right, the item level scaling thing. we'll take a look at that, right? Oh boy, my inventory is not having a good day. So also one thing I want to point out is that as this stream has continued on, you can see that the preferences for healers has evened out very well. There's a slight preference for barrier healers, and Astrologian is a little bit lower. I feel that that is actually reasonable. That is as expected, in my opinion. Right. Let's see. I believe that I do have Shire gear in my glamour chest. I might even have augmented Shire gear. I just need one to be able to prove my point. We might not even need it to be 270. I just need an augmented tombstone gear piece to show you what I mean. Let's see. A hat, maybe? Aurum Reborn ones aren't a great way to show it. They tend to have some weird oddities about them at times. You need it to be... Oh yeah, that works. Restore item. So, we will switch to Dragoon for a moment. So, if I were to meld this item, first of all, it used to be a thing. It used to be a thing that you could also see strength and vitality caps on this menu. You can't anymore because, of course, there are no strength or vitality materia. There used to be. But because they are not in the game anymore, there's no reason to track this. But the long and the short of it is that armor, like the Augmented Shire Pathfinder Circlet, always had strength and vitality maxed out. So, if your helmet was reduced to item level 270, then the strength cap would be 60, the vitality cap would be 63. For a Dragoon or Reaper helmet specifically, you'll notice that different roles have different, like, relative amounts of damaging stats and vitality, with tanks typically having significantly more. So your 270 Reaper helmet, like this one, or the Dragoon helmet, would drop down from 200 strength, 214 vitality to 60 strength and 63 vitality. Next, we can see here that the secondary stats, the offensive properties, physical properties, have a cap of 58. So 58. So that means that this helmet I have here, this Augmented Renacita, Helm of Maiming, which has 168 critical hit, would drop down to 58. It would still say 168, but because the upper limit would be reduced to 58, it would just only give 58. The 118 direct hit would also drop down to 58 for the same reason. Now, in addition to this, the materia would completely turn off. Like, they would just stop functioning entirely. Now, on one hand, that might be concerning. On some gear pieces, it is concerning. But on other gear pieces, it is actually not a problem. So. The times where it is beneficial is chest pieces and pants. And weapons, except paladin weapons, to be specific. You can always put 2 materia for the lower of your offensive properties. They can still fit in it to appropriately, appropriately graded materia. Like, for example, you can see these pants here. It has critical hit and determination, and 2 determination materia. So if I were to scale down to 60, then my determination and crit would still be maxed out on the gear piece, even without the materia. So if I had a pair of 270 item level pants, and actually I do think I have that here, I think. Or not, apparently. Alright then. Never mind. But basically, any gear piece that is like item level 600 something scaled down to level 60 would have all of the stats on the piece naturally. All of the bonuses would be as high as the item level would feasibly allow. They would all be maxed out. However, materia will not work. This is a good thing on pants and chest pieces. And you could even argue it might be fine on, like, accessories if there's only one materia slot. But the thing is that if you're using the best piece that matches, then you could overmelt crafted gear, for example, if there is an appropriately item leveled crafted piece. Typically there is not. But that is also why weapons, especially like relic weapons, are used like that. It's because you can just put all of the bonuses as you need them. That doesn't make sense if you haven't seen a maxed out relic weapon. So I have all of the Shadowbringers relic weapons. You can see here, for example, I have an Astrologian weapon that has 197 crit, 199 determination, 70 spell speed, and 2 points of piety. This is something I have customized. I don't know why I chose those stats. Over a year ago I chose those stats. Probably over a year and a half ago I chose those stats, so don't ask. But this is a pretty good example of how much you can customize them. So you could literally go, oh, we're doing a level 60 dungeon. Well, let me just check what the stat caps are for that specific item level. Go over and pay for a readjustment of stats on your relic weapon and then just max out all of the stats for that dungeon. If you wanted to. I don't know why you would want to, but you could. But as I said, you don't need to do any of this. It's only something that people really worry about in ultimates. Now let's see here. What do we have left? Well, the only roulette that I intend or even consider doing tonight that Coco is at appropriate level for is Frontline. So the question is, Coco, would you like to join for Frontline? Yes. Well, then we do Frontline. What is the Frontline tonight? Borderland Ruins. And Rallo says, I legit got paired up with a Sage with Sastasha accessories on my alt. I had to pull small just so the Sage could keep up with healing, and to be honest, the healing was so garbage, idle healing healed me more. What dungeon did you get put in? So that is a reminder that if you pick up a new job before doing your first dungeon, or any content for that matter, make sure that this part of your equipment is decent. The starter armor set and weapons you're given will not be good enough if this is empty or bad. Doma Castle? Oh no. Alright. We go into Frontline then. Yeah, do make sure to check that. Part of the reason why I also, like, one extra, like, bonus partial reason why I say that you shouldn't start with a high level job of a role you don't normally play is also because if, let's say, you play Bard from level 1 to 70, and then at level 70 you go, ooh, that Reaper looks nice. So you pick up Reaper. What are your accessories going to be? They're going, like, the accessories the Reaper will put on when you click this button is going to be, if you picked any up, it will be Heavensward accessories with dexterity on them that do nothing for you. And if you didn't pick those up, then it might be a Realm Reborn accessories with dexterity on them. And if you didn't have that, then it might be that starter ring with one of every stat on it. The thing is that if you're a DPS, it is not as noticeable, but if you're a tank or a healer, it will make an otherwise feasible dungeon maybe impossible to beat. So after this frontline, we'll be doing the New Alliance raid. Euphrosyne. Alif says, this is new for me. Never done frontline before. Well, if you like watching my VODs, you'll be happy to know that I have a lot of PvP VODs. I have done a lot of streams of PvP in the attempt of rousing some interest in the content, but understandably, most of the people that play Final Fantasy XIV are playing it for PvE. And I think most of the people that watch this channel are watching it for PvE. But this is a roulette, and it is the only roulette left that I'm willing to do. Gilano says, it's a nightmare. You'll love it. If you want to try out PvP, I recommend Frontline, because for the most part it is chaos. Just complete chaos. Like, if Jack could find his way here, he would know where chaos was, finally. He wouldn't need to look for chaos anymore. He would just walk in here and be like, oh, excellent, I found all of chaos. Guys, is a certified top 500 pro PvP player. No, I am not. I am not very good at PvP. But I think it's fun. But recently I have been playing mostly Scholar in PvP. So being in melee range is very alien to me right now. And being able to tank this much damage due to the hidden damage reduction effects on melee jobs is also very weird. Ellie says, in Oceania, we have to shout in every world for people to queue for it together to get into one. So it is hard to get into one. Yeah, I could imagine that. In the European data centers, it is also not that popular. It isn't very popular. Like, PvP in Final Fantasy XIV is not that popular. That is a fact. So on a smaller data center with not that many players, where a huge amount of the players are still working their way through the MSQ as well, it makes perfect sense that there wouldn't be anyone to queue for PvP anyway. Hey, I got a kill. Uh-oh. Run. Nope. No, thanks. Oh boy. I'm not sure on that one. I dodged the whoopsie. I saw the whoopsie and ran out of the pile of players. What I saw, Alif, was a huge stampede of yellow players. And I didn't trust that I would be able to survive that. And if you're wondering what the whoopsie is, that is the nickname that we on this YouTube channel have decided to give the Samurai Limit Break. That is also why, if you check the emotes on the Discord, and if you're a member of this YouTube channel, you will find that there are dedicated whoopsie emotes. That was also how Coco said whoopsie earlier. I thought we were yellow. No, we're red. We're red. That just goes to show the chaos, doesn't it? That's really good. I thought we were yellow. Hello, Black Mage! I'm just saying, you can't get away with just strolling away casually like this as a ranged. Just took all of the damage from their team and just walked away. So if you haven't done PvP before, what a significant difference in PvP is that you'll notice that your attacks have way more potency on them than normal. The thing is that potency in PvP is literally what the damage is of the attack. So Primal Rend, for example, will always deal 8,000 damage or 16,000 if you are using it during Limit Break. Another thing is that in Frontlines, all jobs have a hidden damage reduction effect attached to them to make it at least possible to survive this insanity. All melee jobs take 60% less damage from all sources, while ranged jobs take 30% less from all sources. And then there's this battle high meter that charges up as we fight. For every 20 points in the battle high, you get a buff that makes you do 10% more everything. Oh! I dodged the whoopsie again. But yeah, because there's this battle high that increases your damage as you build it, it means that even if you take like 60% less damage, a player that has a full battle high meter will do 50% more damage, which sort of holds it down. Alif says, how in the world do healers heal in this? This is so overwhelming. They don't. They don't. Most healers' actions that heal have cooldowns. In the old PvP system, healers could spam heals endlessly, which typically led to like turtle fights, where the team that won was the one that had more healing, if I remember correctly. So they have made that not an issue by simply meaning that healers can't spam healing. A lot of the healing you do is centered on yourself, basically. Oh, and our base is getting attacked by blue. Lovely. We're going down now. I got too greedy. Wow! Incredible! I am not sure how we managed to get away from that alive. We finally went down. Alif says, how's Coco doing? Well, Coco has a level 1 battle high, so at least doing positively well. Is that person AFK? I hope not. Elite says, you were alone there. I know. I believe most of my party slowly tried to run, and the thing is that I kept going back to try and fight some more when I kept seeing that my party was still kind of there. And then ultimately I ended up being the last person to leave. Usually when I play Scholar, I just stay with the pack and just support, which means that I'm usually the last person to arrive and the first person to leave anywhere. And the reason why that works that way is because Scholar is effectively a plague doctor in PvP. What we can do after this is I have a feeling that our queue time for Euphrosyne will be a bit long because tanks tend to have longer queues for that. We can spend the time there looking at PvP actions. Yeah. Because Scholar is like a plague doctor, you can just run in, put your dots up on everything, and you don't even need to stay. You just have to be in the area to reapply the dots every 15 seconds. That's all you need to do. Used the limit break on the wrong person, you did. So, the thing with the whoopsie, the story of the whoopsie, is that the samurai limit break works like this. The samurai has a buff they can use on themselves that reduces the damage they take by 25%, and then it also makes it so that anyone that attacks you gets smacked back with a small hit that increases the damage the samurai does to you. The samurai limit break does 10,000 damage in a line, a very thin line, I believe, from your position to your target after the cast finishes. But if you have the debuff from this defensive cooldown that the samurai has, then it instead does, note, instead does 100% of your health in damage. Just flat out kills you on the spot. What that means is that if you hit the samurai when they use the cooldown, then it means they have like 5 seconds to target you and use limit break on you. And if they do, you die. The only way to survive it is if you have a barrier on you, and now you might be saying, wait, a barrier? Scholar! And then, yes, that's correct. Scholar is one of the only jobs with a barrier in PvP. So they could feasibly save you. If you have full health and a barrier on you, you will survive with like a sliver of health. And the reason why it is called the whoopsie is because you attacking the samurai when they use the cooldown means that you messed up. You did a whoopsie. And then you die. And you might be thinking now, that's really unfair and really overpowered, that the samurai can just do that and you can't do anything about it. Yeah, so in Crystalline Conflict, and you have to remember when you think about pretty much anything about PvP in Final Fantasy XIV, is that right now, most of PvP is balanced around Crystalline Conflict, which is a 5 versus 5 system, where you can actually see the status of your opponent's limit break bars. So you can see if the samurai has their limit break Sunset Zuken ready. So you know if they're bluffing. Like if they're using the cooldown and acting like they have the limit break, you can see whether they do or don't actually have it. But in Frontline, you can't see that, so every single time a samurai uses the 25% damage reduction cooldown, it means you have to assume that they very well might also have limit break. So that's really where the unfairness of the limit break comes in. Is because the system that is supposed to make it fair isn't there. Rado says, that explains it for my past PvP clips. Yeah, exactly. And the thing is that you can get people to put the samurai debuff from that defensive cooldown on you. You can get it from using an area of effect attack that just incidentally happens to hit the samurai. So the samurai will absolutely place themselves next to someone that is already getting hammered, just so they can get the free activation and then limit break someone. They absolutely will do that. Like there. I think the only action I found that doesn't actually activate that it doesn't give you the debuff even though you technically hit the samurai is it's the scholar using deployment tactics to spread their dot from someone else to the samurai. That doesn't actually count as attacking the samurai, so you won't actually get the debuff. Let's see, how much did I switch? Did I also change my targeting? No, I didn't. Oh, we didn't win that. I think we got second. And Coco says I got pushed off at the end. Yeah, Borderland Ruins has like a meta of bringing a lot of jobs that have pulls and drags because you can pull people off the edge. If you ever see a monk run towards the edge of that big pillar in the middle, don't chase them, because what's going to happen is they're going to find a way to stun you, run behind you, and kick you off the cliff. So don't chase them, just leave them. Don't go alone at the very least. Yeah. You can see here, so we have this Hisat's Chitin. This is the action I was talking about. Reduces damage taken by 25% and delivers an attack of 2000 every time you suffer damage, and it also increases the damage you deal for 25%. And apparently it only lasts 3 seconds, so the samurai has to immediately target you and just use their limit break on you. And then you can see Sansetsuken in here. I thought it did 10,000, but apparently it does 24,000. The swiftly charges forward, dealing damage to target and all enemies nearby it with a potency of 24,000. I'm pretty sure it dashes through enemies. If target is afflicted with Kuzushi, which is the debuff from this, deals damage equal to 100% of their maximum HP. Ignores the effects of guard when dealing damage. The additional effect of Kuzushi cannot be applied to players riding. Well, that part is insignificant. So, guard reduces all damage taken by 90%, but a few select actions in the game ignore guard. Among them are Mineuchi, Zantetsuken, Drill, and I think that's it. I think most everything else hits guard properly. Right, so next I'm going to be doing Euphrosyne, and I know for a fact you can't join for that, Coco. Your new horns. Oh yeah, those are the 20,000 Wolfmark horns, right? You had 20k for a while now. That's a shame. You can buy stuff like glamour prisms and ventures for those. But yeah, the PvP is chaos. Yeah, go. You can buy a bunch of stuff. Come. You can get glamour prisms. I'm pretty sure it's in the same tab where you found the horns. So you go to the other section, miscellaneous, and you scroll all the way down, and then you see grade 8 dark matter for repairing, ventures, glamour prisms. And they're actually pretty cheap. I'm pretty sure grade 8 dark matter is the cheapest here. Xanto says, I don't think I've done PvP really since Crystalline Conflict came out, besides, I think, like 2 Frontline roulettes. Anytime I've tried it, it kind of annoyed me how tap target never targets who I want. Nameplates are too small to click on. The way that I have found works well, Santo, is in most cases I experience that when I'm trying to tap target someone specific, I'm trying to target someone in melee range, like really close to me, who's actively bashing me. If you set your targeting to closest range and cone, and then just flip your camera like this and press tab, the next person you're going to target is the person smacking you in melee range. Guaranteed. 100% of the time, it's going to be the person smacking you. If there's multiple people smacking you, that's a different story, but if you set it to closest range and cone, it will target the person immediately next to you if you do this. That's why I normally, if I do multiple PvP matches, I switch these, because I like line of sight and ignore depth for pulling in dungeons, because then it means when I tap target, I target from left to right. Which is helpful for applying dots as a healer, or throwing tomahawks and provokes as a tank, things like that. But PvP isn't for everyone. I think that, so the main reason that I do PvP is just for these rewards. That is the reason why I do it, really. It turns out that I think it's fun sometimes, but the main driver for me doing any PvP is this. Like, look here, this series, which is, there's a new series around every 4 months. There's an emote, a mount, a glamour set, some framers for your adventure plates. And Gilano says there's also the Garo event that is still ongoing. That's true. Coco, have you gotten any of the Garo gear? I wonder how long the Garo event will last. I heard that the first time it was in the game, it lasted like 2 years or even more than that. Talk with the NPC. They will give you a... so there's armor sets for all the roles and jobs. The receive a new title button works if you wear a full gear set for your job. If it's a job that is like from Stormblood or newer than that, there's no weapon, so you just need the armor set. If it's a job that is from Heavensward or A Realm Reborn, then you need also the weapon. When you get a title, if you equip the title, there are 3 achievements that give 3 mounts that you can work on by just doing content while wearing the title. The mounts are the Ginga, the Raigo, and the Goten. Which we can take a look at. I'll just jump to my house. It is pretty cool. So this is the Goten. And then this Ginga is just a silver version. I believe those two match with some of the tank jobs and melee DPS jobs. They have outfits that match. And then there's the Raigo, which I'm pretty sure matches with the Dark Knight specifically. But I do understand that there's some players that don't like PvP. PvP isn't for everyone, so... Sanso, the only reason why I try to get people into PvP is that there are a lot of players that I think might enjoy it, that just has never tried it. And it is fun. And the more players there are, the more fun it is. And Coco says, I just wasted 20,000 wolf marks on stupid horns when I could have done this. Well, you can grind new wolf marks. Those Garo outfits aren't going away anytime soon, I'm pretty sure. And also, in the first season of Crystalline Conflict, where the Garo event was reintroduced, I farmed Crystalline Conflict both for series rewards, so that I could buy all the framers that you buy with trophy crystals, and for wolf marks to buy all of the Garo equipment. I reached the crystal rank in Crystalline Conflict, which is the highest rank, and also farmed every single thing, pretty much everything you could buy for wolf marks in that first season, and also everything you could buy for trophy crystals. Why? Because I assumed the Garo event was not here to stay. And because I assumed there would be new things you could buy with trophy crystals eventually. There has been added stuff, but the stuff they added is more glamour items that I don't care about. So I haven't had anything to spend my trophy crystals on, which is why I have 50 wolf collars, which you can buy for 1,000 trophy crystals each. Gilano says, then again, I couldn't complete it the first time it came, so I had regrets for 2 years. I have seen those Makai gear pieces float around since I started playing the game in Shadowbringers, and every time I was like, where's that from? And then seeing, oh, it's from an event that is discontinued, so you can't have them. Oh. And now that I finally have all of the Makai equipment and the Garo equipment, I haven't used any of it. I haven't used any of it. I just shoved it all in my glamour chest. I think I did. I'm pretty sure I did. That is a surprise. Apparently Scholar is the favorite healer. That does surprise me. According to the poll, I mean. Let's see. Paladin helmet, warrior, dark knight, gunbreaker, dragoon, reaper, monk samurai, ninja, ranged physical, mages, and healers. And then here, there it is all again. Oh, never mind. It's party time. So if you don't want to get spoiled to the new Alliance raid and you haven't seen it yet and you don't want to see it, we're going in now. Gilano says, there are some amusing glams like the painting brush Black Mage staff. And also I think it was the only way to get an invisible shield for a while. That sounds about right. That also explains why there are like 2 or 3 ways to have an invisible shield nowadays. Apparently we didn't get in. Instead, someone didn't click yes. Coco says, I still haven't done the Stormblood Alliance raids. We'll get to them eventually. There it is. It is. Go down the list. The Hands of Pressing Darkness. You may have noticed that most of the outfits for newer jobs are very generic. There's a fancy outfit for every tank except Gunbreaker. And there's a fancy outfit for basically all melee jobs. Except the new ones. And then everyone else gets, if your character's a lady, they get tights. Like those. And I do like shorts. Coco says you mean shorts? Yeah, I meant shorts, but the item itself called itself quarter tights, which confused me. Yeah, they are shorts. One of the main driving forces of me going out of my way to collect all of them was that there were shorts involved. They are pretty tight. Tight shorts. Yeah, the plan is to do Euphrosyne, then I have actually done everything on my list, if we get that done. I have noted Mentor Roulette on my list, but I don't think we're going to do that in overtime, because who knows, we might queue and get something like Sephiroth Extreme, or Sephiroth Extreme, and that would take an hour and we would not beat it. And Coco says, do you have the Mentor mount? No. I don't even think I have 10 Mentor Roulette clears. I focus on other things. It's actually quite recent that I re-unlocked the Mentor Roulette in the first place. Because there's so much content you need to do to unlock it. Are you serious? When the queue is so long that someone's sleeping every time. Coco says, I think it would be good in the Mentor Roulettes. I would hope so. One of the problems is that when you queue for Mentor Roulette, almost anything is on the table. Case in point, if you've ever heard anyone advise you to not queue for extremes or savage content, well, mainly extremes, savage just never goes through. The reason why people advise you to not queue for extreme content, even if you can, like there is a button for it, you can queue for it, you can do it, some players are even successful doing so. The reason is because the only players you will be paired with are other sprouts like you that don't know the mechanics of the fight. And so, likely will not be very helpful and will likely wipe. And mentors that could have helped in the 60 minutes you're doing, I don't know, Sephiroth Extreme and failing it, these mentors could hypothetically have helped, each of them could have helped 3 sprouts with 4 dungeons. Each of them could have helped that much. But instead, they're stuck here in an extreme that is not going to succeed. The thing is that when people come with this argument, the counter argument is that you signed up to help, so help. Which is fair. That is fair. However, the mentors know that this content isn't made to be beaten in one sitting, and it is not made to be beaten by queuing once every few weeks. And many of the sprouts that queue into this content are immediately realizing how much out of their depth they are when they enter. So that is why you should not queue for extreme content, because the only people to get paired with are sprouts that don't know the mechanics either, and mentors that cannot carry the group. They cannot carry the group. Santa says, it would be funny if Raid Roulette could give you Coils Raid. Oh boy. That would be painful. But interesting. I think, honestly, if old hard content was made a little easier, like a special version that was a bit easier when done in a roulette or something like that, and then was added to the roulettes, that might be a good thing. Like, they add the old extremes, but then they just, you know, tune down the numbers a little bit so that it is more approachable. But then, of course, it is synced. I think that could work. And Alif says, it's just the extremes. Those are the problem for mental roulettes. Exactly. And Santos says, I remember queuing for Titan Extreme as a sprout. Waited an hour because I didn't know better. Got some poor mentors to play there. Yeah. I went into Ultima's Bane, I believe it's called, the Ultima weapon Extreme. And I realized how much I wasn't ready when we tried to use invulns on certain mechanics, only to find that it kills you outright. So that didn't work. There was no cheese. And I do believe we eventually just disbanded the group. But namely, no one said anything about it being, oh, you shouldn't have queued for this. No one said anything. So I just decided that it was a little difficult. And didn't queue again. And Coco says, for me, the sprouts usually listen. Returning players keep dying, and the mentors are bad. Well, and this is the reason why. So there's two parts to the problem with the mentor roulettes. On one hand, there's no reason to waste all of that potential mentor assistance for players that actually could use the help. Like, these mentors could help with dungeons that are actually completable. So the sprouts should probably not queue for it like this. They should make a party finder group dedicated to do it.
By my authority, let the land be remade.
On the other hand, the vast majority of mentors are mentors for the rewards, not to help. And those players are just mad that they got an extreme that will not clear, because it means they will not get a check, like an extra completion for their achievement, so they can have their mount. And this is what happens when you add rewards to a mentor system. People will do it for the rewards. Elif says, I imagine it would be hard to communicate about mechanics through chat though, even giving out directions in normal dungeons seem tough for most, much so in extreme content, exactly. And Goober69 says, why else would you be a mentor? Are you referring to getting the mount, or are you referring to helping people? Rewards. I want to help people. That's partially also why I try to help people in dungeons where I don't get extra rewards from mentoring around. Goober69 says, you must have a lot of patience. I do. I have a Discord. I have a Discord server where I help people that ask for advice, and I have a YouTube channel dedicated to teaching people how to play the game. Of course, I have a lot of patience to help people. Goober69 says, well, you're just a great person. Oh, thank you. Oh, looks like the other two tanks have this in order. And Goober69 says, I just wanted rewards. Fair enough. But yeah, so I want to be clear that I'm not saying that the mentors that are in it just for the rewards are necessarily in the wrong. The key thing here is that if you want the fancy mount that comes from being a mentor, if you want that, there's only one way to get it. There is only one way. So you can't just say, oh, then just if you don't want to help people, then just don't get the mount, lol. It isn't that simple. Why is he pointing at me like that? The problem is that there are rewards related to mentors in the first place. I have previously suggested that they should change the icon for mentors away from being a crown. It should be, I don't know, like a watering can. You know, to water the sprouts. It should not be something as cool as a crown. It needs to be something extremely boring. Generally something that people wouldn't necessarily want. And there should not be any rewards tied to it. It should be entirely for you wanting to help. Like, the mentor roulette could stay, it gives some rewards, but remove the mount achievements and stuff from it. That's what I think would be good. But I think the problem there is that the amount of players that are willing to be mentors just out of the goodness of their own heart and just wanting to help are few and far between. So to bolster the ranks, there are extra rewards. It simply isn't enough to take those that would mentor just to mentor. For a second there, I thought the person I was sharing that tank buster with was a black mage. And Coco says, why is there a lalafell in your basement? That is actually Sip's lalafell. Sip is working on something in my housing basement, and he needed an NPC to distribute items for him. I just noticed that the tanking this boss was dead, Okay, they've decided to pick it up again. Most of the stuff in my house is placed by Arya and Sip, because they're working on some housing project for me. I think I mentioned that previously as well, at least on Discord. Because I'm really bad at housing, but they love to do housing. So I'm basically offering them more housing to play with. And Leaf says, oh god, the boss got healed by something suddenly. Yeah, these two bosses have this shared fate effect where they will share their health back and forth. That is to say, every so often they will just add their health together and distribute it evenly. The reason why everyone just attacks the axe guy, I believe, is because he has a frontal cone attack, which is much more easily dealt with if you're close to him. And the girl has an attack that she has a mechanic where you have to either look at her or not look at her to do it correctly. And you can always just switch target to her momentarily, should it be that one that you get. This is chaos. So people just have the meta has just become to attack the axe guy. And the reason why I'm just calling them axe guy and girl is simply because I can't. First of all, I can't remember their names, and second of all, there might be some players that are watching, like some people that are watching that don't want the spoilers, and me simply not really highlighting who they are helps them a little bit to ignore it. Yeah, it's a fight with two bosses, but they share health for the most part.
I, the Fury, shall test your strength of spirit.
Yeah, as I was saying before, I think that we would have a lot more just genuinely good players that are trying to help as mentors if there were no rewards or any sort of prestige at all related to it. Unfortunately, that is not going to happen, because if it was like that, we would have so few mentors that they would be lacking. There wouldn't be enough, I think. People just chasing the tank with the sprint marker.
You must do better than that against me.
There's also this, I think at this point it's a very old, like, meme YouTube video with someone, like, like, two characters where one of them is supposedly like an actual genuine mentor, where the other one is, you know, somewhat new player or maybe experienced, doesn't matter. They ask, where do you get the fancy crown icon from? And the mentor says, well, you have to become a mentor. And the person who was interested now just immediately looks up how to get the crown, gets the crown, time skip, and the next time you see the players, they have a crown, and the only thing they're talking about is how awesome their crown icon is. While the mentor players, like, there is a lot of responsibility in having this crown, you know? Oh dear. I can't remember what it's called. But it's a good, it's a pretty good way of spelling out part of the problem with the mentor system. Some players just want the fancy crown because they see it as genuine progress for their character. Some players want the mount from the roulettes, so they get angry whenever the roulette that they're served is a roulette that isn't beatable or is time consuming.
In ice unyielding, now rest. Mine is the easiest.
And that automatically means that all discussion about maybe fixing this circles back to some players are in it just for the rewards, so they don't deserve to get the nice treatment of reducing the difficulty or potential hassle by removing extremes from it, for example. But then there's also the part where there are genuine players that are doing mentor roulette just to help. And they are annoyed by the extremes because they know it will not work. They know it will not turn out well. It's pointless. But they have to help to try and finish and do their best. But they could have helped more people if it wasn't there. And Twan Dundas says it's kind of the idea that the actual meaning behind the role is gone because people go for the rewards only. Exactly. This issue is in Honkai too. You can be a mentor for rewards, but you barely talk with your student and you still get rewards. Yeah, exactly. I have tried, I can't remember what MMO it was, but I have tried an MMO in the past where there was a mentor system, and I played it with my brother, and we both picked a mentor from the very elaborate mentor system. My brother's mentor was clearly someone that was doing it to help, because he regularly came and gave us guidance, both of us even. He also helped me, even though he had nothing to gain from helping me. He also regularly came and just buffed us with like a mount that could give party buffs that made it way easier to play the game. My mentor, on the other hand, never responded.
Well put. Your next test awaits.
This is years ago, by the way. I don't even know what the rewards they stood to gain from it were. What is this? That's insane. I think there's something good to be had from a mentor system. I just think that the mentor system that Final Fantasy XIV has leaves a lot to be desired, that's for certain. However, this song, on the other hand, does not leave anything to be desired, does it? I just now realized that it's triple warrior tank.
Bear to me your love.
Hey guys, I think the other tanks in the party are onto me. We have warrior only alliance raid. Is this your favorite song? No, but it's a good song. I like it very much, but it is not my favorite. Look at this line. Oh boy, it perfectly lines up with the line AoE. Incredible.
Lest you wonder, what I cannot handle. Is it too much for mortals, I wonder?
I love how they use like lines in the floor to help guide you and things like this. That one says geometry spotted. Yeah, I know, right?
Prepare yourselves. Have mercy upon them.
I'll just turn on my tank stance for a bit, so that I don't fall too far behind the other tanks. That was a very convenient position. At face. Oh boy. I'm going to go over here, away from all those pesky spread markers. Oh no. I've never played Honkai, so I wouldn't know how a mentor system would work in that game. But I feel like in most games that try to have a mentor system, what happens is that there are some players that will join the mentor system just to help. But the vast majority of players that will do anything with a mentor system are players that are doing it for any potential rewards or prestige behind it. I did actually look for on a previous run where I wasn't streaming where I was trying to find out if there were more mechanics that dealt with the floor specifically. There are a bunch of mechanics that sort of slightly line up with the floor in some way. Like for instance, Menfina here's this sometimes lines up with the geometry on the floor, but I'm pretty sure that's just coincidental because she's facing a specific direction. Which I'm not entirely sure is whether it's random or not, whether it's related to where the tank was when she started casting. So it doesn't really apply. I think it's just that moon at the start that really directly interacts with the lines in the floor. Coco says, look at the tank, look at the floor. I can't look at so many places. Look at the boss. Look at the floor. Well, look at the boss. Figure out what the boss is doing. Now that you know what the boss is doing, look at the floor. Maybe it'll help you. My eyes! You just need to look at multiple things at once. It'll be fine. He says, I might be back. That's not how the quote goes, but okay. I might be back. Not sure. Maybe I'll be back. Perhaps. That is a lot of mechanics overlapping. I don't think I've had this fight go this long before. I don't think I've seen a triple mechanic overlap like that in this raid before. How strange. And a second tank buster. Wow. Oh, music. Tuan says, if it all works out, I might come back. Maybe I'll be back. I don't know how my schedule is looking right now. Maybe I'll be back. And it's just something I like to sometimes say as a joke. A toss of the coin, really. And Coco says, look at the abilities. Look at my cool glam. Look at the boss. Look at the tank. Look at the floor. Look at the boss's hands. Good thing about MSQ Roulette is that I can pet my rabbit during the unholy amount of unskippable cutscenes. Now, I'm gonna stop you, everyone. Coco has a pet rabbit. 2, in fact, if I remember correctly, right? Hold your keyboards. I think this is the first time on a duty roulette stream that we did all of the roulettes on my list that I had actually planned to do, and even did Frontline as a bonus. And we're not even that much over time of when we usually end. Thank you for watching, Alif. And have a good night, or a good morning. If I remember correctly, it's very early in the morning for you. And yeah, actually, that does mean that we have completed what we set out to do. So what I will do next is I will sort out all of this loot that I've accumulated and see what we should do about it. And then... What? I didn't have that card? Ah, interesting. We got a new card! And as I sort out this stuff, if there's anything you guys would like to talk about before we finish this stream, this is a great time to do so. And besides that, the only other thing that I would like to bring up while I do this is I would like to refer to the fact that this YouTube channel has a community Discord. If you would like to have an easier way of keeping up with all the stuff that is happening on the channel, the easiest way to do that without being beholden to the YouTube algorithm or Twitter or something like that is to be on the community Discord, where there is a channel dedicated to the weekly schedule and a channel dedicated to whenever a new post, new video, a new short, or a new stream is planned or released. So it's easier to keep up on everything. There's also rooms dedicated to discussions of all sorts of stuff. Asking questions about the game, glamour sharing, music channels. There's even a room specifically for spoilers, which is very neat if you want to discuss lore stuff. And there anything goes. So if you would like to be part of that, you can do that. You can also represent your data center there if you would like to do that. And there is a looking for group room, but it has not been used yet. So if you are having a hard time finding people for stuff, you could always try there. Everyone's super friendly and nice, so it's not the worst place to find people. Antoine says, this long into the game and you're still getting cards. I haven't done Balsa's Wall that often. It is very rare. It is very sloppy of me. And I have never actually gone out of my way to farm cards. I know some players do that. I never bothered, so that's probably a huge driving factor in me not having all of the cards. So the way that I sort all of the equipment I get after like a roulette, a set of roulettes like this, is that anything that I can desynth to increase my desynthesis level, I will desynth. Everything else I will simply trade in for company seals, because I know that I can appreciate the company seals. I don't know for certain if the item that I desynth the item into is worth anything. So it is a safer way to turn it into something. Often it turns out to become minions I already have though. So I can sell this, and these I already have. So we will turn those into MGP. So if you've ever heard me talk about inventory management, this is what I do every time that I'm like done with a session of stuff, is I clean out the inventory like this, just get rid of everything so that I have space. Now you might be saying, what's happening down here? I don't know what to do with all of my Euphrosyne drops, so they're just kind of accumulating. And Coco says, I just pressed pass, but you could have money. You could have money. These minions that I get from those company seals are worth money. You could have money. There's a reason why you have 50k. Coco, the person with a large house and 15 million gil is telling you that passing is a bad idea because you could have money. The person with items valuing above 55 million gil is saying, there's money to be had. Live the capitalist dream. Rado says, when was the last time you played Astrologian? When was the last time I played Astrologian? I believe the last time I played Astrologian was when I recorded footage for my hardest jobs video. And I believe the raid footage from that video is actually reused footage from a previous session that I recorded So I'm pretty sure the last time I played Astrologian, like in a proper dungeon or raid setting, was, I think it might have been when I made the healer comparison video. I think, maybe? That's a few months ago. Isn't it? I'm pretty sure. And Coco says, are you buying minions with seals? Yes, I am. And I believe in my simple money-making tricks video, I'm pretty sure I highlight that buying minions with your company seals is not a very efficient moneymaker. You should buy glamour prisms. You say you only see storm hatchlings. What's your rank? Are you a storm captain? Or what are the other ones called? Are you a captain? Where are you on this? Second Storm Lieutenant. I think you need to rank up more. I can't remember. I think you need to do squadron stuff to rank up more. Yeah, the pets are... Let me just go back. Antoine says, I think we need to do other Grand Company stuff. Yeah, it is very annoying. That's why I just did, like, there is an achievement that gives you, like, 4 emotes. And to get that, you need to do 10 squadron missions, you know, the dungeons. I think I did, like, 8 Bravelock's long stop runs as a tank. Just to get it over with. Where's the storm hatchling? Oh, there it is. You have to scroll all the way down, and then if you can, they will be there at the bottom. If you don't see them, then you don't have access to them. And then I also want to highlight that at the very end, turns out that Sage was the most popular of the healers on this stream. Let me just reiterate, near the start of the stream I said that you might be wondering why I made a poll on what your favorite healer is on a tank stream. That is because if I said who's your favorite tank on a stream dedicated to playing warrior, presumably warrior would win by default, right? There would be a lot of warrior mains wanting to watch this, perhaps. I know there are some warrior mains that decided to check in just to watch this because their favorite job is warrior. At least one. I know at least one person said they would. However, exactly, Mega Brain bias check. Now, instead, I say, what's your favorite healer? And the reason why that is very interesting is because I have a hypothesis that tank mains like Sage. Why? Because the way that you play Sage, especially in dungeons, is keeping up the damage reduction buff from Keraholi and Tavraholi, which is very reminiscent of defensive cooldown cycling, which I believe tanks, like tank mains, are very familiar with and might even enjoy. So I would assume the healer that has a playstyle that is just slightly reminiscent of that would be popular with tanks. And of course, this poll does not necessarily prove that. But I do think that it is interesting. There's also the possibility that there's just a lot of Sage mains that watch my channel. Or a lot of players that like Sage because I like Sage. I've also had a stream where we played Sage already, so And I have a Sage guide out, and a Warrior guide out. Incidentally, like, I have guides for all jobs, but I haven't remade a White Mage Scholar or Astrologian guide yet recently. So, that might also have an impact. But I do still think that it is quite interesting that Sage managed to come out on top in the end. Astrologian being on the bottom is not surprising though. Aiden says, I main warrior. Exactly. And welcome to the stream. Unfortunately, you have reached the tail end of the stream as we're wrapping up. We ran out of roulettes to do. But it is interesting that also that Astrologian is, like, it's not just slightly at the bottom, it's clearly at the bottom of all the healers on the poll. That doesn't say anything bad about Astrologian, but my belief is that Astrologian is less popular because of its difficulty. And this is also something that I stated in, well, this is something I talked about in my hardest jobs guide, that Astrologian is really, really hard, and it's a healer. That doesn't help. What? You both have to deal with healing and keeping people alive, and then also play cards? Preposterous! Impossible! I think that Astrologian is really difficult. The thing is that playing Astrologian is one thing. You can absolutely just play the cards as you get them. The thing is that if you're like me and you want to play optimally when you can, you will find yourself drawn to the idea of playing the cards in sets of 3 during divination. And that is hard. That is really hard. It's the same that goes with all jobs. When I say a job is easy, it typically means that the obvious way to play the job is relatively close to the optimal way to play the job. Like, it's not super intuitive for a warrior to use Infuriate a few GCDs before you're going to use Inner Chaos. But that is the only unintuitive part of the opener, in my opinion. Similarly, any healer really, where all of the buttons they have are somewhat intuitive, would be easy to play. And I can only for Sage, I can tell you a specific laid out plan to heal a dungeon pool. For all the other healers, it becomes, I mean, it depends on the tank. It depends on what the tank does. You can do this reactively. Only Sage, I can give you a proactive, just do this. And then, if things go wrong, you have these tools to save you. Which means Sage is easy to me. There's a lot to talk about there, but it makes sense that Astrologian would be less popular when it is a lot harder. Now, I don't see any particular questions in the chat, so once again, I would like to highlight that. I see it says already pushed out of the chat. That doesn't normally happen. Let me just post it up again. I do invite you to join the Discord community server if you want to have an easier time following what's happening on the Discord on the YouTube channel, because everything gets posted there first. And the more people we are on the Discord server, the more likely it is that we can do stuff there. You don't have to be European for it to be helpful, although I could understand why you would think so, given that we have a incredible majority of Europeans on the server, I have discovered. And thank you, Tuan. I hope you find it helpful. And fun. And yeah, I don't know if anyone has done that yet, but one of the benefits of knowing which data center people are in on the Discord server is that you could plan to do stuff together. You can join for things. It doesn't just have to be my streams. You can do stuff on your own if you want. I think it's a great place to gather because all of the people are so friendly there. Huh. Right. Well. I'm making you dizzy. I don't have anything else left on the menu, so with that said, what's happening on the channel is in the next few days there's going to be a short about, conveniently, looking at the floor for boss mechanics, and a red mage opener short. And even if you don't play red mage, you might find it inspiring. If nothing else, you might find it funny to hear how quickly I can speak in a video. That 1 minute short limit is difficult sometimes. And then on Friday, we are discovering everything you can do in the Gold Saucer. Trying everything and looking at what's worth doing and what isn't worth doing, at least in terms of MGP. So if you have been eyeing that 4 million MGP mount and thinking, I'll never get that, that might be the video for you. And yes, even Verminion. I had to sit down and do the tutorial to figure out how on earth you play Verminion. My friend Aria, who is on the Discord channel, is... I believe she's pretty good at Verminion. She has minions from it. So if you want to get into Verminion, she might be able to give you a tip or two. It's been a long time since she did it, though. But we did everything. We even did Mahjong. And I rank everything based on... Well, I grade them based on how viable they are for farming MGP. So that would be a great way to get yourself started if you want to farm. The bad news are you'll have to spend a lot of time, or be very lucky. And then, of course, on Saturday, we finally finished the Shadowbringers leveling story and reached the credits. So if you want to see that, make sure to check your calendar. Antoine says, I haven't figured out how to play Mahjong in Yakuza 0 or Final Fantasy 14. Me neither. However, it takes a lot of time. And Coco says, this is the only reason to do Gold Saucer. To get Bonnie suits? If you say so. You're the Vieira. I suppose you would be a professional or a master on the subject. Of bunny suits. Right. I think I have pulled out every single thing that I could talk about that I feel like I need to talk about on this stream. So that, I think, is everything that we're going to go over. So the only thing left to say is, as I say, good night or good morning or afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. And I hope to see you guys for either the shorts coming out the next few days, or the video premiere, or the stream on Saturday. But I hope I see you all very soon, or talk to you on Discord. Good night. Or good morning or afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. See you all very soon. Oh.